Thank you very much, Ashita. So today's panel theme is Beyond Profit, Leadership Responsibility in Sustainability and Nation Building. And I'm very grateful and thankful to my partner in crime, Sanjeev. Is he around? Sanjeev, are you here for referring me this amazing topic for this panel discussion today? And we have our 4 esteemed panelists joining from corporate and business world. So let me start by sharing one thought that today leadership is not just measured by revenue, but responsibility. And from climate action to CSR, the question is, are we really doing enough or just enough to be seen? And with this thought, let me start with our first panelist. So allotted time for each panelist will be 3 to 4 minutes per question. I'll be asking you one question. So my first question will be to Ms. Simin Askari. She's been former CHRO and head business excellence with DS Group. Ma'am, I would like to ask you, in your experience as a CHRO, how can organizations embed sustainability into their people culture so that it becomes a mindset and not just a policy?
Thank you so much, Sheriji, for having me today. It's a beautiful afternoon, and to be among so many CXOs and personalities is a great honor for me as well. This topic that you have chosen is actually quite relevant because today we are talking about sustainability as a part of the organization ethos rather than just a one-off initiative. So the question that you've asked, let me just take a step back and actually tell you what doesn't really work. What doesn't work is when organizations create policies and then start, making sure that it is part of a culture. So that becomes it should actually be the other way around. It's very easy for an organization to have a one-off, sort of a visible scheme, for example, tree plantation or a one-off community, sort of initiative that you're doing for the community. But to sustain it, it actually has to be part of what the organization really stands for. And one of the ways of doing that is actually to make sure that everybody has it in their day-to-day practice. That can't happen if the leader of the organization is not exhibiting the behaviors that we expect the other people in the organization to actually follow. So it's a top-down approach that I feel is very important. By having the leader actually do what they expect others to do is the first step. So making sure that sustainability is part of an everyday conversation, it's a part of everyday leadership behavior is where we should start. And the second, I think, very important aspect is to have it as a part of a performance conversation. What have you done for the environment? What have you done for the people while still maintaining profits for the organization? I think those are the questions that need to be asked. Just, having a focus on the numbers is no longer enough. How you have attained what you have attained. The how is very important. So I think unless you actually put it into those conversations, that's not going to work. The third is actually that, these kind of initiatives need to be on an ongoing basis. CSR can't become a one-off initiative just because, you're mandated to have a 2% of your PBT as a spend on the community and you're just randomly just doing that. There should be a purpose behind it. I mean, we are fortunate, frankly, to be living in a world where the youngsters who are joining organizations are asking those questions. They don't just randomly choose organizations where they want to step in. They ask, what does this organization stand for? What is it doing for the environment? Because they are more concerned. Frankly, people sitting on the stage, we are all above a certain age, we have youngsters who are now coming into the workforces and making sure that they are actually making sure that organizations are taking responsibility of not just their people practices, having ethical labor practices, ethical people practices, but are also fair to the environment, to the planet that we are living in. And they are asking those tough questions. So I think making sure that everything is woven into our everyday conversation, whether it is sustainability initiatives or ethical, responsible leadership, I think that is going to be important. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was so informative and inspiring also to hear your words. Now my next question for our second panelist of the day, Ms. Harpreet Datta. She had been a former Chief Business Officer and Group Head for Talent and Leadership for GMR Group. So, ma'am, I would like to ask you, how can leadership development programs groom future leaders to balance the business growth with the climate responsibility without compromising the profitability? And I also would like to have your view on your thoughts on public speaking. That's the subject I convey to other corporates, and communication for leaders in corporate.
Thank you so much, Arthur Sherry, for having us here. And a very good afternoon to everybody. I think such a relevant question to a CXO group sitting here, because the past rhetoric has been organizations means, commercial organizations means profits. So you're responsible to your stakeholders, to your investors, and that's the mindset that we have been living for some time. But I think there's a very fundamental, radical, and a very important shift that's happening in the last few years with the coming in of many laws, ESG compliances, sustainability becoming center to the boardrooms conversations. I think that fundamental shift has made everybody wake up to this very relevant conversation about profit with a purpose, right? So when you look at that, when you bring in purpose into your organization, which is beyond values, okay? So when you bring in purpose to an organization and now look at it from that lens, I think it just sort of changes the contour, the texture of the conversation completely. And I think that's one shift that large organizations have already made. So you name the Unilever, you name IKEA, and I was just doing some research on large organizations which actually have made the shift already. So this is one thing that's definitely happening. The second thing is I think there's a shift that's happening, which is shifting from a compliance mindset to a more responsive mindset to sustainability. Whether it is in building carbon neutral supply chains, whether it is in bringing renewable energy to the table, whether it is about building even our tech products to be neutral, right? So there is this whole conversation saying that no, it's no longer about just being compliant to laws or compliant to matters, but it's about actually shifting over and saying that we will build something which is more sustainable. And I think the truth is also, with the current state of the world economy, in fact, the geographical, political context of what we are, sustainability, even for our own business, becomes very difficult. So it's right now, if you don't have oil coming in, I mean, you really need to talk about sustainability now. You don't have LPG coming into your doors, or you don't have enough petrol. I mean, it's not a distant past. What I'm trying to say is this is not a distant past. It's happening right now, here and there, right there. And so I think, again, the conversation would shift and is already shifting to building sustainable businesses. So whether you are able to, if you have committed to your client, to your customer, that you're going to have such and such a product delivered, are you going to be able to do it? If you do not have sustainable back-end processes that are helping you to do that. And hence, sustainable also definitely means longer term. So are we conserving energy enough? So water conservation has become big in most manufacturing plants. They are no longer something we talk about. Companies have actually brought in this, conservation of water, electricity. All of this is happening. So I think it's a very, very relevant topic. And I think it's something that CXOs, CEOs in particular, need to, will be spending, I think, more and more time on. I think it's going to be something that you're going to be having to answer more and more in the boardrooms, and hence bring them into your organizations. So that's on the first part of the question that you asked about. The second, whether communication and public speaking is important, of course. I don't call it a soft skill. I have another word for it, and I call it the power skill. I don't think it's about soft skills at all. If you are not able to, forget about a CEO, anybody is not able to communicate with clarity, and now, Sherry, I'm picking up all the three words that you said, with clarity, with conviction, and with connection, right? Those were the three words. And yes, they added confidence, so you added confidence. If you're not able to do that, it is meaningless. And now let's imagine a CEO and people at your level having to communicate. I think it is a skill that has to be necessarily honed. I don't think there are two ways about it. I also heard the story, I don't know how true it is, that Barack Obama is supposed to have had a room full of mirrors like this. You know, he had a room in his office, which he had a room full of mirrors, and he would actually, what seemed like a spontaneous speech was very often not a spontaneous speech. He had prepped for it. He stood in front of mirrors, he stood probably with a mic in his hand and practiced this before he actually went and addressed lakhs and lakhs of people, when he addressed a global audience. So I think this is a skill, and I hear genuinely mean it, Sherry, not because I'm sitting on your platform. I think the work you're doing is phenomenal, because what you're doing is building that confidence in the person to be able to articulate his or her vision. I think that's so important, and connection, engagement, and as one of our previous speakers was saying, even a politician, many politicians who may not even be very educated are able to articulate their thoughts. More important, they are able to connect and engage. Even if the story is true or false, doesn't matter. But they're able to connect, they're able to engage, they're able to tell a story, they're able to influence. If these are the things that we want to do, and with CEOs being the face to represent their organization to the external world, and also becoming the change agents for their own organizations, I think this is a skill which all of us have to get right. I don't think there is a choice of not getting it right. The sooner we do it, the better. So you need to do more programs. Maybe I'll enroll for the next one with you. Surely. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Harpreet, ma'am. It was wonderful to hear your side of thoughts, so informative and inspirational as well. I remember I was sitting with Dr. Sandeep Marwa once, and he shared that adversity can cause some men to break, but others to break records. And that's the introduction for a man who's ex-Navy, like a mentor, and that's HS Cheema Saab sitting in front of you. From a scratch to building up a business of 800,000 CR is no joke. So he's the man sitting in front of you, and we had many candid conversations and many candid lunches together. And I'm very thankful to him for traveling all the way from Chandigarh to join this conference today.
Thank you जी, thank you very much शहरी साहब, और मैं बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूँ शहरी साहब को ये कंडक्ट करने के लिए। और मैं जैसे इन्होंने बताया, मैंने 10,000 रुपये से नौकरी छोड़ के बिजनेस स्टार्ट करी है, और हम 7,500 मिलियन टर्नओवर पे हैं। ग्रेट। 400 इंजीनियर हमारे पास काम करते हैं, 30 एकड़ में हमारी फैक्ट्री है, और नंबर 1 बॉयलर बनाने वाली कंपनी हम वर्ल्ड की, इंडिया की तो पक्की है।
तो चीमा साहब,
इसके लिए जो सब्जेक्ट का मैटर है उसके ऊपर मैं बात करता हूँ। हमारे 4 भाई इकट्ठी हैं और चारों लेडीज एक घर में रहती हैं। इंदिरा गांधी की भी रह रही है, अंबानी की भी रह रही। और 95 के बाद कोई भी हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट हमारा चेंज नहीं हुआ। With regard to both madams and all of them for HR, तो जिसको कहते हैं HR, वो सही कह रहे थे बीकानेर वाले। आप अगर दिल से प्यार करोगे तो वो दुनिया प्यार करेगी और रहेगी आपके साथ। और ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ क्वेश्चन है सब्जेक्ट ਦਾ।
हाँ जी सर, और मैं बोलना, मेरा भी तो बहुत
कोई गल नहीं, बोलो तुसीं।
So just kidding, Cheema Saab, it's an inspiration always to hear what you share with the world. So as an industrial leader, Cheema Saab, what practical steps can manufacturing companies take to reduce carbon footprint, because that's your forte, while still remaining competitive in today's market? And I would definitely love to hear your initiative for the nation, because you're doing so much.
ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट है। जैसे कि अभी आजकल पराली का शोर मच रहा है कि पंजाब में पराली जलाई जा रही है और दिल्ली तक पोल्यूशन पहुंच रहा है। मैंने 2005 में 100% पराली फायर्ड एक पावर प्लांट लगा दिया था, और आज हम लोग नंबर 1 है पराली में। जो IOCL पानीपत का प्रोजेक्ट है, वहाँ 3 लाख लीटर एथेनॉल बनती है डेली पराली से, मोदी जी ने इनॉग्रेट किया है, उसके हम टेक्निकल पार्टनर हैं। और ये जो डिस्टिलरी होती है, अगर आप 1 लाख लीटर एथेनॉल बनाते हैं तो 10 लाख लीटर पानी ख़राब होता है। पीछे वो पानी ब्यास में डाल दिया था किसी ने, सारी मछलियाँ मर गई थी। तो 2005 में पहले दुनिया में पहली बार मेरी पेटेंटेड टेक्नोलॉजी है, मैंने वो गंदे पानी को कंसनट्रेट करके बॉयलर में जला के उससे पावर बना दी। इसको कहते हैं एनर्जी सेविंग रियल ऑन द ग्राउंड।
अमेजिंग।
और अभी पिछले मोदी जी ने बुलाया, हम दोनों गए उनके घर पे, और हम अभी हाइड्रोजन के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं, हाइड्रोजन फ्यूल सेल के ऊपर। तो इस तरह की जो रिसर्च वर्क है, ये बहुत ज़रूरत है। एनवायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन के लिए।
Thank you, Cheema Saab. Very precise, informative, and always awe-inspiring. My next question to our fourth panelist, Deepak Bharara Saab. So he's one of the persons who motivated me to do this event. Thank you very much for being around.
Thank you, sir.
And my question to you, sir, being the board of director of Hartech Group and director trustee of ICPI, CSR is one important area which we all talk about in the corporate world. So it has often become a compliance activity rather than just doing it by heart. So how can organizations transform CSR into a strategic tool for nation building and long-term impact?
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for the opportunity at the first place. And secondly, really congratulate you for the topic, Beyond Profit.
Thank you, sir.
I think most of the industries today are looking forward only for the profit as a primary. But they always leave apart the other two important factors, people and planet. And the CSR is one of the vehicle whereby you can impact the people and the planet as well, and can also take care of the profit while taking care of people and planet. It's a more of a mindset. I have been last 45 years working for industries, and most of the time I feel some of the industries are really doing great work in terms of the CSR, and the pioneers are Tata's for that matter. Tata is a leader, Wipro for that matter, GMR Foundation, then Aditya Birla Group Foundation. They are doing great job and impacting the people, planet, and the profit. But most of the organizations are only talking about the profit, and they forget about the people and planet. And it's a more of a mindset. CSR is more like a mindset. I feel if the CSR is being driven from the top, if the mandate is given and there is a commitment towards the CSR, it can create wonder. I feel today most of the CEOs are doing CSR like compliance at the first place and ticking the box. And they want to have a photo sessions without doing anything. I had seen industries having their own foundation, moving money from one pocket to another pocket. And that's a sad part of it. As I said, it's a mindset. People have to see CSR as not as an activity, not as a charity, but as creating a social value, whereby people are impacted. And we should move from measuring the spent. We are always talking about the spent. How much money has been spent? Finance people always say, what is the ROI? I fail to understand what is the ROI for internal peace and alignment. That is more important than the ROI. We are building the nation. We are not building the only organization. We are building the nation. We have to shift from taking care of activities of the national problem. Can I identify one or two national problems and focus and do my CSR towards that? Maybe primary education, maybe drinking water for that matter, maybe infrastructure at the first place, and help the people to improve their livelihood. Work along with the underprivileged people so that they can also become earning member of the family. Work along the 50% ladies in the villages so that they can also have some revenue generating model and can sell their product or produce through the industries from which you are operating from. So by that, we can have connect, conviction, and the commitment toward the CSR. One important thing is, can we take CSR only as a measurement? I think it has to go beyond measurement, because we are not only addressing the concerns, we are addressing the larger framework, that is people, planet, and the profit. That's what I say.
Thank you very much, Deepak sir. It was really inspiring to hear from you. And as someone who has served multiple positions into the corporate world, it is so wonderful to receive that aspect where you...
One more element I would like to say,
Sure.
most of us, what we do is, we take the ownership at our level. We want to do that. I will suggest, don't take the ownership. Give the ownership to the people around you. and you just give them the infrastructure. That's it. The moment you start photo sessions, you know, आपने एक single activity कर ली और उसके बाद फोटो सेशन करा के कहते थे, पुराने ज़माने में कहते थे नेकी कर कुएं में डाल, आजकल पता है क्या बोलते हैं, नेकी कर सोशल मीडिया पे डाल. So that's the difference we are talking about.
Okay, Deepak sir, thank you very much for sharing your views. And to sum up this brilliant panel discussion I'm having right now, of course, there's always a shortage of time when we have this kind of a conversation happening, but it is really heartwarming to receive all of you and get your experiences in the form of the right diction for all of us. So I would like to ask one final thought on the subject which we are talking today, beyond profit. One line, two line final thought from each panelist. So I'll start with Simin Askari ma'am. What's your final thought? One or two line if you like to add something.
The final thought on the...
On the entire panel. So beyond profit.
I think to sum up this entire conversation, I think what is the future going to be is of the people and of CAOs and CXOs in the organizations who don't consider that there is a tussle between people, planet and profit, rather people who are able to create that balance between all three. And that's the future belongs really to those people. I think organizations that understand that it is not a trade-off, rather it's creating that balance is what those organizations are the ones that are going to thrive. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And a final thought, Harpreet ma'am, from you.
I think it is about I'd like to use the word impact. So you can create impact by creating profits, and that's benefit. Let's go all to the investors. How about looking at impact for your employees, the society, and the planet and the environment around? It's just a small shift, but could make a huge, huge difference to the legacy you leave behind as leaders.
Excellent. So impact. Thank you. Yeah, Deepak sir, final thought. One line, two lines.
Okay. Lead with purpose, grow with responsibility, and profit with integrity.
Wow, amazing. So Cheema sahab, your final thought.
सोसाइटी की सेवा करोगे, सोसाइटी आपको अपने आप फल देगी. Work for others.
And if you talk about in shorter words, people plus planet is equivalent to sustainable profit.
Thank you very much, sir, for summing up so beautifully. And leadership is no longer about being best in the world, but it's about doing best for the world. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to take a sign off for this presentation and this panel discussion. I would like to thank all my panelists for joining us here. And until I meet you next time, this is Author Sherry signing off from here. Thank you very much.